Good morning, everybody. This is KB5MIQ, Big Boy. Like I said, talking to my two buddies we talked to on 10 meters about 3 or 4 nights a week. They give me a lot of good suggestions for these videos, so I'm going to throw one together here right quick to help new hams out. Um, Things to think about that you don't normally think about that you're going to need in ham radio. Because we all get our mind on the radio. Oh, we got that nice radio, we got to put it up. But there's other things that go along with it, and it's not. This stuff's not real expensive, and everything I'm going to show you, you can buy at Harbor Freight. You don't have to buy the best of it for this, because for what you're doing, it's a hobby and it all works good. Uh, Before I get into that, remember at some point, unless you solely use ground mounted antennas, you're going to be on a roof or climbing a tower or on a ladder. So be careful. Always, if you can, if you have to do it by yourself, triple check your ladder. Make sure it's seated good before you climb up it. It's always good to have somebody there on the back up on the ground with your ladder. Um, Make your little tool bag or something to carry your tools up there in so you keep track of everything. And be careful. That's the main thing is be safe because you go up in the air, and especially us old boomers, none of us bounce good anymore. So all right, this is just some of the general things you could use in your ham shack. Now, in one of my earlier videos, I pointed out a good multimeter. Doesn't have to be a real expensive multimeter, but a decent multimeter. This one I bought back in '92 when I was going to electrician school. It's a realistic old Radio Shack. It's one of their better ones. I think I give $50, $60 for it back in. It's been a good multimeter. I keep it all the time around here to check voltages, home out lines I make and things like that. It's always good to have a good multimeter in your shack. And like I said, you can buy an inexpensive one. Like I said, everything I'm going to mention here, you can get at Harbor Freight. Another thing to remember is if you get into antenna building, you're going to have tape measures. A good 25-foot tape measure, Harbor Freight tape measure, or if you're going to get into longer dipoles, especially up 160, here's a 100-foot tape measure that you're going to need. Lay stuff out on the ground to get you good measurement with. Always a good idea to have that kind of stuff. All right. Infamous plastic wire tie. Absolutely need them. Wire tie your cables together, neaten everything up. Good example of what I use wire ties for is this headset cable and push to talk. I left them separated, but here on the main part of it, I got it under my computer. I've got it tangled up as crap right now for one thing. Let's see if we can get this untangled. But I wire tied them together to kind of neaten them up, hold them together in one spot. Always good to have them around, neaten up your cables and coming into your shack. All right. If you decide to make your own cables up, you'll need to go to a ham store, order online. You'll need to be sure you keep some, I think I'm out of them as a matter of fact, PL259s. This is a used one. I've got to put it back together. And this is set up strictly for RG8 coax. If you use RG8X, you'll need to get your little adapter like this, screws in the back of it. This adapts it down to that size before you solder it in place. Always good to have barrel connectors, and I'm out of them at the time, but I would show you one to butt two pieces of coax together using the PL259s. It's a double SO239 connector. If you're going to do soldering and solder your own end zone, you need some good rosin core solder. Don't ever use acid core solder, and there's the ham radio cat sticking her tail up in everybody's face. Don't ever use acid core solder on electrical connections because it'll corrode them up, and it's just not good for it. Okay, Indy, get up there and find your place. Show everybody your butt. All right, a soldering iron. I used for years a Radio Shack pencil iron you just plugged in that got hot. Main thing is use a pencil iron. Don't buy one of those gun type that's got the trigger on it. That they may some people make and use them, but they're awkward to use for smaller stuff. I use a Weller soldering station. It's got a sponge in it. You need to wet your sponge down when you solder to wipe your iron off while it's hot. Keep your iron clean. Soldering works better. Everything has to be clean. Wire has to be stripped off good and all that. Soldering station, you can buy one at Harbor Freight. It doesn't have to be a Weller. It can be. I got a deal on that one at a flea market. And I got that good one. All right, strippers. You can buy a coax stripper. I don't have one. I use a razor blade. I've always just used razor blade, but they do make a coax stripper and be real handy. This is just standard pair of electrician wire strippers. Strip power cables with, things like that. This is a set of stake-on pliers to crimp terminal ends on, and you probably will need something like that. And you can buy something at Harbor Freight cheaper. You can buy a stripper stake-on crimper combo at Harbor Freight, and just put them ends on to put it on your power supply. Now, Cat, you're gonna get in trouble. Get out. Just put it on your power supply, neaten your power supply up, because you don't want any extra wire hanging out. If you wrap it, that it might come in contact and cause a short. Basic hand tools. I prefer deep sockets. It's just a 1/4-inch drive socket. I prefer deep 1/4-inch sockets if I can to tighten up antenna stuff with. That way you don't have it. It's easier not to over tighten if you're using a bigger wrench. But smaller box end wrenches, 6-inch crescent wrench, cheap pair of lineman pliers. For smaller work, here's some smaller electrical dikes you can use if you got to get into things like that. These are just a set of Allen wrench keys from Harbor Freight. There's the Torx head, metric, and standard that you can get there real inexpensively. My camera is not set up right here for this table. Okay, Andy. But a little bench vise, a little clamp-on vise, will make it a lot easier to solder with. And I usually move my stuff over to this other table, but I'm not good at moving this camera. But any little small clamp-on vise to help hold your wire in place when you solder, keep it still. And for us guys who can't see anymore, magnifiers. Makes it a lot better. Make sure you get a good joint and stuff. Proper light is good. Needs a good light over your bench when you're working on it. And of course, after you build a cable up, take your multimeter and ohm it out. Make sure you don't have a short in it. And I always check center conductor, shield to shield. Then I check shield to center conductor to make sure there's no continuity there. When you get outside and make your antenna connections, they make something called coax seal. I happen to be out of right now. But black electrical tape, Super 33, or any black electrical tape, whatever Harbor Freight sells is good. This is a rubber splicing tape. If you're really going to make a long-term connection up, you can wrap it in this and then rewrap it with the black tape. All that stuff's available at Lowe's. So, not trying to plug other companies, but that's just where you can buy this stuff at. Like old buddy of mine said years ago, talking about buying tools and power supplies, it's stuff you can't have fun with on the radio, but it's necessary things you got to have. Any other things you normally think of, if you know electrician buddies that have access to different tools that can help you out, be sure and contact them. Like I said, just keep a few small tools handy. Everything I've mentioned here will not break the bank. You can buy every bit of it at Harbor Freight, very reasonable. But you do need to keep you a little handful of tools on hand to work on this stuff with. But anyway, that's about all I can think of for today. We still try to get on the air on 28,450 at night, about 7:45 Texas time. If anybody's ever on hears us, please check in. We had a Florida check in the other day. A couple Florida stations checked in. Good talking to them. And that's why we do this. It's not a formal net. It's just a roundtable discussion. We invite anybody to come in, say a few words. It's what's part of the fun part of radio. That's all I can think of for today. If anybody's got any suggestions for a video, just check me out on QRZ.com. My email's posted, or you can leave. I think you can leave me a message through that if you need to, or send me a direct email. KB5MIQ is a call sign. Ham Radio Cat's in here with me most of the time. I get a lot of comments about her. Anyway, hope everybody has a great week. Enjoy the hobby and hope to work you on the air sometime. This is KB5MIQ Big Boy 73.